Hello, I'm Belkis Perez. Thanks for tuning in to Coral Gables Television. Today on Coral Gables Now, President Obama signs the financial reform bill into law. We'll have more on how it will affect your pocketbook. Researchers at the University of Miami are on the cutting edge of fighting cancer. We'll tell you about their latest discovery. Plus, need information on new restaurants, directions to an art gallery, or advice on where to stay in the city's downtown? Coral Gables ambassadors will soon be here to help. And the sculptor behind those beautiful figures atop the Coral Gables Museum has always been quite a mystery until now. Those stories and much more, Coral Gables Now starts right now. And welcome to Coral Gables Now. I'm Belkis Perez. Researchers at the Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center at the University of Miami have developed a method to destroy tumors. It's the latest development in the fight against cancer. Joining us today to explain the findings is Dr. Eli Gilboa. He is a researcher, Dodson Professor of Microbiology and Immunology, and co-leader of the Tumor Immunology Program at Sylvester. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being here.
My pleasure.
So tell me what your role is at the University of Miami.
So I'm leading a program to try to enlist the immune system to fight cancer. So much of the effort in the field is to develop what we call cancer vaccines. And that's similar to vaccines that we all know about, that we have vaccines against influenza virus, against flu, where the concept is to take advantage of the fact that the immune system has learned how to distinguish between us and the rest of the world. So when a virus infects or a pathogen or a microbe infects us, the immune system recognizes that it's different from us, it becomes activated and tries to get rid of it.
That's how the immune system would normally
work. That's how it works.
But for cancer, it doesn't work that way.
Well, we are trying to do the same thing in cancer. That's where the focus is, develop what we call cancer vaccines. So the idea is based on the expectation that the tumor looks different from our normal tissues and cells and organs, and that the immune system will recognize it, we will activate it, like we vaccinate against influenza virus, we vaccinate against what we call tumor antigens, and get rid of the cancer. So far it hasn't worked very well, though there are some clinical trials that have shown that the concept is right. Clinical trials with cancer vaccines have shown that it's a modest effect, and the question is one question is how to improve it. So the challenges that we have in cancer is that the cancer is different from us, but it's not very different. So the immune system has some trouble recognizing it, and it's activated but in an ineffective way. And the other difference between classical vaccines that we all know of and cancer vaccines, that in a vaccine against flu, for example, we are vaccinating an individual that doesn't have the flu virus. So when the flu enters the body, he or she is already protected. Cancer vaccines are not, for the time being, are focusing or developed for patients that already have cancer. So we're trying to get rid of something that's already there, and that is more difficult.
So tell us how this new approach to kill the tumor cells works, the one that your team has been working on.
So the development of cancer vaccine that I have been involved for a long time have some important challenges. One of them is how to recognize effectively those entities in the cancer center that are a little bit different from ourselves. And the other challenge, by the way, is to counter the various approaches that the cancer that has been festering in the patient for months and years develops some defense mechanism, and we have to overcome them. So when I joined the University of Miami, the Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center about 4 years ago, we decided, based on my prior experience and lesson that we learned is to develop a fundamentally different approach to enlist the immune system. And the approach is to try to simulate a pathogen like flu virus, is to make the cancer look different, more different than it is, by effectively decorating the cancer that is spread, for example, throughout the body with foreign entities. So now the immune system will recognize it as different more than before and will be more effective at getting rid of it.
So it would be, as you had previously said, it would be just decorating it so our immune system would then take over and attack that cancer.
That's correct.
And is there any stage of cancer that this works best? You had said how you need to have cancer present. It's not something that happens before you have the cancer.
Yeah.
Is there a stage?
Yeah, we believe that for most treatments in cancer, the earlier we treat, the better, and that probably most likely applies to that also.
And this has been already tested on mice?
That's correct. So we tested that new concept in mice, developed the tools to do that, and we have shown that in mice it works, and it is a relatively good effect because we compared to other approaches, which doesn't tell us obviously if it will work in human. That's our next challenge.
And how long did it take to eliminate that cancer when it was put into the
So in our experiments it took a few weeks, but the experimental systems that we use in mice are rather artificial. They are good at telling us one thing but not the others. So what the animal studies can tell you, that the concept may work in the human, but it doesn't tell you how well it will work and how long it will take.
And this was implemented as an injection?
That's correct. So that in the future, if that approach will prove effective, it will constitute injections.
And how long did it take you and your team to come up with this approach and test it and come up with this hypothesis? It seems like it would be years to do something like this.
Well, it took us effectively 3 or 4 years because that's when I came here, because we started this new approach and similar strategies.
And what would be the next step now?
Oh, the next and challenging step will be to test in cancer patients, which has 2 parts to it. A very important part that often not recognized or appreciated. We have to adapt the concept from a mouse to the human. We have to generate the human reagent, and then we have to improve them in a stepwise fashion to make as sure as possible that it will be effective enough to show some impact on the patients. The concern we have that we will not optimize the system well, not adapt it well, and the clinical trial will fail. Will fail not because the concept was wrong, but because we haven't optimized enough. And then, of course, the second component is to do the clinical trial, which goes in several stages. Now,
this finding is, for someone like me who really isn't in that field, very amazing. It's very hopeful. Do you get a lot of people that would be calling you or that are very optimistic about this, thinking that this is the cure-all for cancer?
Yeah. So two parts to the answer. We work on the assumption, a very reasonable assumption, there's no magic bullet in treating cancer. So it's not a particular treatment that will cure cancer. Rather, we will need to come up with a combination approach of 2 or 3 treatments that are complementary and are additive, that will have an increasingly more significant therapeutic benefit. And in that sense, this is an example of one approach that we will try. But we are also working in our program to develop complementary approaches.
And I'm sure that your team was ecstatic, and you as well, when this happened. You've got students from the University of Miami as well, working with you on this.
Yeah.
And what are your feelings at finding something like this, which seems really revolutionary?
Yeah. So the work itself is done mostly by a very talented group of investigators that I oversee. And as far as the feelings, to me, it is one in a lifetime.
Which is very good, and we're glad to have you here doing that type of research as well. This will be, if it goes through the phases and it is approved, then this would be a series of injections then that would be?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And it would have to be a patient that already has the cancer?
For the foreseeable future, yes, but one can envisage to adapt that particular approach to individuals, healthy individuals, but who are at risk for cancer.
Okay. And this is still a ways away?
This is even farther away, yeah.
And before, and clinical trials, when do you expect those more or less an
under
estimate?
optimal conditions, which are never optimal, I would say 1.5 years to 2.
But it's always a little bit more.
A little bit more, and the clinical trial are developing in stages. The first is a small clinical trial when you have to make sure that the treatment is safe. And then if it's safe, then make a larger clinical trial that we will test, is there an evidence of effectiveness? Does it inhibit tumor progression? And if we gain enough confidence, then we do a definitive clinical trial to prove to us and to everyone that this really benefits cancer patients.
Well, doctor, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on your findings. We wish you the best of luck in future findings. And if you'd like more information about the medical developments that are taking place at the University of Miami, you can always go to the website, the Miller School of Medicine. Their website is www.medmed.miami.edu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Coral Gables Now is just getting started. Up next, the financial reform taking place in Washington, D.C. will affect us right here in Coral Gables. We'll tell you how next. The city will soon be home to a new high school dedicated to international studies. And the Coral Gables Museum opens its doors next month. What you can expect when you walk in for the first time. We'll be right back.